Hey Miraculous fans, this is Haley from Cartoon Universe, bringing another Miraculous Ladybug theory. Today I would like to talk about Adrien's mother, who at the moment of making this video has yet to have a first name revealed and is only known as Mrs. Agreste. There is so much we do not know about her, with her name being only the first on the list of many mysteries. But from what we do know, it is a definite possibility that there is something shady about her sudden disappearance in her son's life. Piecing together everything we know about her reveals that she may in fact have a darker side that is yet to be shown. And this seems like a very bold claim. After all, she is shown to be the almost perfect mother figure that was mysteriously removed from the show before it began. However, there are just so many missing pieces of information that I am starting to get suspicious. Looking at even her first reveal on Thomas Ostrich's Twitter, she was extremely hidden in terms of physical appearance. It has been over a year later, and we still know almost nothing about who she is as a mother or wife, except for being presumably loving. But there are some things that go against this statement. In Simon Says, we learn that she had quite the temper, and may have even called her husband out on some of his actions. This was seen as her being portrayed as very protective of the one she loved, but it could be taken that she was not as perfectly as initially portrayed. Also, we know that she disappeared from her son's life around a year ago, which is honestly not as long as I thought it would have been. For everything that Adrien has said about his life, it would seem that he has not been treated fairly for a long time, if ever. Most notably is his lack of having friends. His only friend before entering school was Chloe, who lives within walking distance to his house. Before this, he was homeschooled, even when he had both parents. So how could this be? Why would his mother, who was around for almost all his life, let something like this happen to her only child? Well, like I said before, she was said to be very protective, but there may have been some other factors at play. The first option is that she had no power in her marriage with Gabriel Agreste. This makes sense according to how she has so far been described in the show. She is shown as innocent and pure, especially in that picture where she is only 17 years old. How could she ever hurt anyone, especially her son, by depriving him of friends? Perhaps these types of decisions were simply not up to her. For the past 3 years, despite her being around, Adrien has been given the same gift on his birthday, which was a pen. But the other option, which is what the evidence in this theory is pointing more towards, is that Mrs. Agreste was a strict mother that was not only very protective, but also a bit demanding. The most interesting thing to note is that when looking at a picture of Marionette's family, Thomas Ostrich reveals that Adrien was thinking, is this what a happy family looks like? It does not make sense that he would have this thought unless he saw his family as imperfect for his whole life instead of a few months. It is possible that he rarely saw his mother when she was around, or did not consider his family as happy because only his mom loved him even though he had a father as well. But she may have been a huge reason as to why Adrien lacks experience in social situations, and this definitely goes against what we have been led to think about Mrs. Agreste so far. She is the mom who was gone before the show started, and has this halo-esque glow around her. But on that note, does that remind you of anybody? Of another character from a cartoon series that I talk about 90% of the time on this channel? Okay, if you haven't guessed it already, or just don't watch the series at all, which you should, the character I'm referring to is Rose Quartz. Rose Quartz is the mother of Steven Universe, the main character of the show. She gave up her physical form to bring her son into the world, who is half gem and half human. But before this, she was the leader of the rebel group, the Crystal Gems, a group of gems who fought against their homeworld to protect Earth. At the beginning of the series, she was shown as the perfect gem and leader who was able to gain the respect over many other gems as she recruited them for her cause. The start of the show depicts her as a character who could literally do nothing wrong. But as the seasons progressed, we began to learn more about her. The once perfect gem began to show her flaws. And while Rose is not evil, she did what she had to win against those who opposed her, which meant hurting other gems who stood in her way if it was necessary. The reason why this took so long to be revealed is because the only characters who told Steven about his mother saw her as a hero and leader, and were hesitant to reveal her darker side. My point in explaining all of this is to show that there might be some parallels between these two characters. At first they are shown as the perfect character that everyone is enamored with, but slowly this is revealed to be a facade. I do hesitate to say that Mrs. Agreste is evil, but her being something of that degree could explain some of the things we have learned thus far in the show. Like I theorized before, Adrien's mother may have been strict when it came to her son's life and kept him locked inside of the house for either his safety or for a reason not yet known. Gabriel, Adrien's father, was stated to always have been a stick in the mud, but he may have been a very different man a year ago. What if Gabriel's current attitude towards things was only caused by the disappearance of his wife? She could have had a say in what Adrien did and didn't do, and now that she is gone, he wishes to replace her in how she acted towards him. He does not want his son outside in this apparently dangerous world, just like his wife once did. We know that Gabriel has not been the same ever since his wife vanished, but we do not know what aspects of him changed following the disappearance, so there are many possibilities here. I'm not sure it would have ever been to the point where Mrs. Agreste could have been the one in charge, mostly because Gabriel states that nobody controls him or tells him what to do. But like I said, he could have been a very changed man after she vanished, and before Mrs. Agreste was the one with all the plans. Speaking of vanishing, something else that I want to talk about is her sudden disappearance. I find it awfully strange that Adrien just had to accept that his mom was gone one day without an explanation. But he seems to know nothing about why she went missing, so clearly he has been left in the dark about this. It is likely her disappearance had something to do with the Miraculouses. The Peacock Miraculous was seen next to a picture of her. When it comes to Miraculouses, we know that Master Fu said he only made a mistake once when it came to handing out these objects. My initial thought was that he was referring to Hawkmoth, but it could also be that he was referring to Mrs. Agreste. Maybe it was her original goal to gain the power that Hawkmoth now desires, and that search for power led her to Tibet, the place on the map shown next to her picture and the Miraculous. If this Miraculous was hers, then it would make more sense if she brought it with her, but for some reason she did not, so maybe it was never hers or she misplaced it somehow when she left and then never returned for it. And while she may not currently be in possession of the Peacock Miraculous, she could still be another character revealed for Season 2. The one that I see has the most similarities with her is Style Queen, who may be a villain who is not akumatized. Physical appearance-wise, they do share many similarities. Also, note the color scheme. She's primarily gold with a few black accents on her hips and head. Want to know what else is gold that is associated with Mrs. Agreste? The painting of her in the Agreste mansion. It is almost identical to the portrait of Adele Bloch-Bauer, sorry if I said that incorrectly, which is commonly known as the woman in gold. If Mrs. Agreste was Style Queen, it would make a lot of sense to see that one of her powers is literally to fade away. This might be the worst case scenario for her current whereabouts, but looking at the evidence, it is definitely a possibility. No matter the case, I think there is a big chance that Mrs. Agreste is going to later be shown as a person with flaws. Now these flaws may be minor, or they may be big with not so great intentions. And with that, I want to know what you guys think. If we get to see more of her, which is extremely likely, how do you think she will be as a person? Will she be the perfect wife and mother, or will she be something much more complex? Tell me in the comments below. Thank you Patreon supporters for your continued contributions to this channel. If you want a shout out or other cool rewards like a spot in my theory crafting livestreams, then feel free to become a patron. Stay tuned for more Miraculous videos. Bye!